When you mentioned the role of magic and the occult, could you kind of give a sense of how that plays a role?
Sure. For me, and I'm going to use a term that I hate, but it is one that has some currency and your listeners might know. I live in an animist universe, right? So stuff is alive and has influence to varying degrees, right? And when I say that occult stuff is rejected forms of knowledge, what I mean is, and apologies, I'm a recovering person with a recovering philosophy background here, right? So there are various ways of knowing. There are what are called epistemologies, and various different epistemologies exist. So the example that is always used, I can say, I know maths, right? I know mathematics. But I can also say, I know Mark. I'm using the same word, no, but they have two different qualities, two different kinds of propositional knowledge, right? And what the occult, in inverted commas, can mean for some is the study of the hidden experience of knowing. So you've picked Alan Moore, and Alan Moore is of the opinion that art is magic, that influencing people's consciousness through, writing, speech, whatever, is a form of magic. Despite the beard, I'm not totally, in agreement with
a loyal disciple. I thought you were going to be.
I'm very fond, and I have friends who are friends of his. But I would say, for me, that the occult or any of this things that are associated with magic is fundamentally about existing and prospering in a living cosmos, a cosmos where there are other influences, and whether one believes in gods or spirits or purely viruses that alter our entire society, studying those influences is what eventually became what we call science. There is the division between magic, occultism, science is a very modern one. The arc of history, if you like, if it has an arc, is people paying attention to the world and working with the world as they experience it. And in doing so, learning things about the world and experiencing knowledge which might be considered irrational, right? But in that irrational knowledge, being able to pass that round down to generations. And so you might have a story of, say, if you need this situation solving, use this herb, or this is how you speak to the gods by mixing these two vines together and brewing up some ayahuasca. We would, in our modern world, we would say, oh yeah, that's trial and error and, scientific knowledge and repetition, and eventually that's how they got it. But what if you say that those people learnt the forest and they let the vines speak to them in whatever way that is, and in some fashion they learnt to fuse those two vines together to brew ayahuasca, which then gives them their experiences, which they then come back and tell their community, and perhaps that moves in a feedback loop. Because for me, what's interesting, and your listeners might be interested in some of the work by a fellow by the name of Peter Kingsley. One of his theses is that Western philosophy, which is sort of the basis of rationality as we, have it, in its pre-Socratic form, involved, in many cases, going down into a dark cave and performing rituals and having mystical experiences, and then coming up and using those mystical experiences to explore the world and say, actually, we should behave this way and that way. I'm with Alan Moore in the sense that I think magic is the basis of what becomes culture. Strange experiences then get rendered less strange and become part of how a culture responds.
So to me, then, it sounds though like that it's from someone who is personally explored with ayahuasca before or meditates or different things, like it's just interesting. And even, you know, as I mentioned to you, fasted last week just to experience an altered state. I wanted to experience the world from a different perspective. Like from someone that needed to move slowly throughout my day. From someone that didn't have energy. Did you get me?
Oh, like, no, totally. And I think that is, I think we're converging on a point here, which is that there are multiple ways of knowing and experiencing the world.
Thanks for watching the latest clip from the What is a Good Life podcast. My name is Mark McCartney. I'm the host of this podcast, and I'm also a coach based in Berlin. Over the last 2 years, I've interviewed over 150 people around this question, and I've distilled these findings, anecdotes, and experiences into both corporate workshops and one-on-one coaching programs. If you're a corporate looking to book a workshop for your next event, or you're a working professional in need of finding answers to some of the bigger questions in life, please direct message me below for a free 30-minute consultation.